Hellraiser and Hellbound Heart both introduce us to Clive Barker's dark, gritty, and terrifying villains, the Cenobites. Pinhead, Chattering Cenobite, Butterball Cenobite, and the female Cenobite have probably been living rent-free in my head since my first time watching the movie, and I'm sure you guys share my sentiments. I mean, can you really forget them? With such a smashing introduction to these creatures, it's only befitting that since then, fans have been waiting for a deep dive into the Cenobite lore to learn more about them. This has led to Hellraiser comic books, where we learned more about the gratuitous torture that the Cenobites have delivered over the years. And this is also where we get to meet Grillard, an ancient Cenobite. In today's video, we'll be taking a deep dive into the lore of Cenobites, particularly that of Grillard. So brace yourself for this horrifying journey as we learn more about this nightmare-inducing entity. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
We have such sights to show you.
Who are the Cenobites? Before we learn more about Grillard and his appearances over the years, we have to learn a little more about who Cenobites are in general. Right off the bat, we know that the Cenobites are extra-dimensional beings who, at first glance, seem extremely mutilated. Their main goal is torturing humans in the labyrinth while they're stuck there. If we look at the origins of all the Cenobites, we learn that they used to be humans at one point, but then they became servants of Leviathan. Leviathan's true origin is not known, but from the context clues given, we can assume that he's actually a fallen angel. Perhaps he is the fallen angel mentioned in the Bible. Now, Leviathan really likes law and order. No, not the show, but rather the whole control aspect of it. When Leviathan looked at the humans and the so-called mortal realm, it felt like this was far more chaotic, and it wanted to ensure the humans were punished for their wrongdoings. That is when Leviathan got the Cenobites. These Cenobites acted like the foot soldiers of Leviathan, and they were supposed to wage a war against the chaotic and flesh-obsessed lives of humans. The labyrinth, where the Cenobites bring the humans for their torture sessions, is presided over by Leviathan. But how do these Cenobites come to the human realm? I mean, we know about the Le Marchand box, but is it the only one? We found out there were several other boxes. Angelique, the demon princess and daughter of Leviathan, was said to have created a few boxes herself. Particular configurations need to be met to activate the boxes. We have the most classic puzzle construct, the lament configuration. When this configuration is operated properly, it is said that a pleasing melody is heard. Then we have the Triumph of Judas, which was the second box that Philippe Le Marchand, the antagonist, had conceptualized, even though technically it was the 9th box that he created. This box works on a secret geometry which contains the painting The Last Supper. The Love's Easy Tears was Le Marchand's 10th puzzle. The story behind this box is absolutely horrific. So, Le Marchand proposed to this girl, Anna. Anna refused the proposal, and so Le Marchand killed her with the Cenobites. The box is designed to be manipulated the same way the Cenobites and Le Marchand got the bones out of her body. Apparently, when this box is being solved, the person solving this box goes into depression. And lastly, we have the Hollow Heart configuration, where the surface plates of the puzzle box have to be arranged in a way that replicates the arrangement of the streets of New York City back in the time of its construction. Philippe Le Marchand is said to have created 270 puzzle boxes with the help of a Cenobite named Baron, and using them, he killed several people. The exact number is left up for estimation. While at first no one knew how he was killing people, we, the audience, knew quite well. But did the people really die? Well, there is a bit more to that. Once the puzzle is solved, the Cenobites show up at the scene. After they arrive on the scene, their big boss, Leviathan, judges the person who solved the puzzle. If Leviathan feels like the person is worthy enough, then the person is dragged into hell and transformed into a Cenobite. As you can imagine, this whole procedure that takes place in the transformation chamber, led by the engineer, is excruciating. The person's body is completely mutilated. Their blood is sucked out of their body, only to be replaced with a blue fluid, which is probably the main reason why Cenobites look so pale. Now, this entire procedure breaks the person's mind and basically wipes away all of their memories of their human life. The twisted caricature, the broken and mutilated shell of the person that remains, is usually adorned with the most perverted aspects of their life, and the transformation is finally complete. One of the most memorable examples has to be that of Dr. Chenard. Dr. Chenard was transformed into a Cenobite throughout the entirety of this grueling process. Now, because he used to be a surgeon, as a Cenobite, he was always vivisecting his brain. How gruesome is that? But what happens when a person is not deemed worthy? Well, they are not spared either. They're either destroyed on the spot or they are dragged into hell, and they spend an eternity in torment. Now, you might think that, hey, the destruction on the spot sounds like a better option, right? Well, about that, the destruction is never complete. On 2 separate occasions, it was found that after the body is immediately destroyed, the person still remains to a degree in the form of a psychic tear. Yes, we are talking about sleazy Uncle Frank from the first movie. This psychic tear can trigger a physical transformation if some blood is spilt on it. Once this transformation is triggered, more and more blood and guts are required for the victim to replenish their lost body while new bodies keep piling up. To save yourself from any of these 3 outcomes, you have to meticulously unsolve the puzzle as Kirsty Cotton did. She managed to unsolve the Le Marchand box, and Pinhead had to return empty-handed. So from all that I've said so far, we can conclude that the Cenobites and the Le Marchand boxes are tied together. A box has to be solved, or rather opened, and only then do the Cenobites attack. However, what if you accidentally open the box? What if you're just a goofy goober who really likes solving puzzles and you have no ulterior motive? Will you too be condemned to hell and torment and torture? Luckily, the answer to that is a big fat no. As it turns out, the Cenobites, while being the torturous torturers to ever torture, have some code of conduct. If the one who solved the puzzle is innocent and was tricked into solving it, they are not considered to be valid victims in the eyes of the Cenobite. While the Cenobites are extremely tough to beat, owing to their immunity against any and every mortal weapon and attack, that does not mean they cannot be beaten. If one Cenobite goes against the other, then we get an injured or dead Cenobite as a result. And if you don't have a friendly Cenobite willing to go to war for you, no worries. You can vanquish Cenobites using holy weapons. Now keep all of the details I've mentioned in your mind as we dive deep into Grillard and his lore. The appearance of Grillard. As a seasoned Hellraiser fan, I'm sure you've stumbled across the Hellraiser comic book series that was published by Epic Comics. In this comic book series, you get a bunch of stories in each issue written by fans of Clive Barker's work who ventured into this project with the writer's blessing. The first story that we find in the first issue of the series is a story titled The Cannons of Pain, written by Eric Saltzgaber. In its plot, we follow the Lady and Count Carillion. Count Carillion decided to lead a crusade as a part of the 5th Crusade of Europe. He wanted to be of his Lord's service and help reclaim the Holy Land in the name of the Lord. However, after a strenuous journey, leaving bloodshed and dead bodies wherever they went, all that the Count Carillion could find was a puzzle box. He was obviously not very happy with it, and when he returned to France, he felt lost. He felt like he had failed in his quest, and he was extremely depressed. Lady Carillion, who was left in charge of the Count's fiefdom, decided to remain in charge while her husband got his much-needed rest. The Count's fiefdom was the 3rd largest in France, so you can understand the pressure that she was under. Father Robitaille, the head of Castle Carillion's parish, had a dream that told him that when the Count returned, he would bring a great evil with him. He told Lady Carillion about this, and Lady Carillion decided that she would research this ornate box and hopefully banish the evil whom they assumed to be Satan. In the depths of her despair, after being rejected by the Count over and over again, Lady Carillion decides to solve the puzzle box in the hopes of answers. However, she ends up summoning none other than Grillard himself. Grillard is this huge, bulbous, and lumpy Cenobite with a split head. You can see the rough stitchings done around his head, and his face is disfigured owing to this odd piercing that connects his mouth to 2 of his 4 exposed breasts. There's also a corkscrew through his nose, which makes him look particularly gruesome. And when Grillard shows up, he is never alone. He has a pet that looks like a mangled dog who patiently waits for his commands. So Grillard shows up, and Lady Carillion tries to banish him, which is a bit silly. As they go back and forth about what true evil is, the Count shows up. He's worried about his wife, and when he shows up, Grillard summons Hell's spears and turns the Count into a kebab. Then right in front of Lady Carillion's eyes, the Count is dragged back into Hell, leaving no doubts in her mind that they were up against something super evil. With the Cenobite gone, Lady Carillion and Robitaille swear to fight against Satan and sin. So more and more exorcisms, baptisms, burning at the stakes, and bleedings were done to ensure no sin was being brought into the fiefdom. As they kept waging war against evil, Lady Carillion and Father Robitaille ended up falling in love. A few months later, we see Lady Carillion is expecting a child any day now. With the rampant exorcisms, baptisms, etc., Lady Carillion and now Monseigneur Robitaille felt like they were strong enough to go against Grillard. So they decided to solve the box, and Grillard was summoned again. This is where we realized that Robitaille was not a man of God, not quite as much as he claimed to be. He was using the power he had as the head of the parish to influence everyone around him and rise in power while claiming that was God's will. Absolutely selfish behavior, and Cenobites do not condone that. So Robitaille gets speared and then skinned alive on a St. Andrew's cross. Lady Carillion is horrified, and she goes into labor. When the maid shows up to see what the lady needs, she's nowhere to be found, but a baby is found on the ground. As it turns out, Lady Carillion was taken to Hell with her lover, but the Count, who died feeling like a failure, was given another chance at life as he was allowed to be reincarnated as the baby. The story takes place in the year 1222. The following issues of the Hellraiser comics follow the lives of different people who fall victim to the Cenobites. Now, in issue 19, we get another story with our boy Grillard coming back on the scene. In the story titled Roulet le Marchand, Dean Schreck tells us about the life of a young boy named Carlos. Carlos is the leader of the Vultures gang. He always felt like it was his destiny to rise to power and be the one to rule all the gangs in Philadelphia. I mean, everyone has dreams, nothing wrong with that, but Carlos's dream seems to be a bit violent, doesn't it? Well, we soon find out that Carlos managed to become the head of the Vultures gang by killing all of his predecessors, leaving a bloody trail of bodies behind him. As Carlos is pretty one-track minded, despite seeing how much bloodshed it was causing, he was steadfast in his goal of running all the gangs in Philadelphia. Eventually, he came across Vito, the leader of the rival gang. Vito, unlike Carlos, had no intention of continuing this fight. He wanted the two gangs to coexist with separate turfs, thereby ending the feud. This would also mean that Vito did not have to submit it to Carlos, and Carlos was not at all okay with that. So the two leaders met, and Carlos demanded that they listen to him, or else he would ensure Vito's gang would be wiped out. As you can guess, a fight broke out, and Carlos went after Vito. As he ran deep into Vito's territory, he didn't realize that he had separated from most of his gang members. Surrounded by the enemy on all sides, things were looking really tough for Carlos. He kept asking God for some sign, some help so that he could live another day while also preparing himself for this glorious death. That is when he suddenly noticed an opening just big enough for one person. He was already in the tunnels of 103 St. Maury, but now he found a way to get deeper. So despite the rancid smell and everything that awaited him down there, Carlos went for it. As he ventured down, hoping to stay away from all the people who were after him, he came across an old man. The old man seemed to be lost in his own thoughts and seemed completely distracted. He was searching for something in the water, and from where Carlos was hiding, he managed to see that it was a puzzle box. Before he could approach the man, Vito's people arrived at that place. Right then, the puzzle box opened, and chains came out of the box, pulling the man inside. Vito's men ran away, screaming in terror, and Carlos realized that this was the divine guidance he had been seeking for so long to take Vito down. The next day, Carlos arranged for a duel with Vito, but instead of using a gun to play Russian roulette, he was going to use the puzzle box. His His main plan was that both of them would take a turn with the puzzle box, and the one who did not solve the box would be the one to win. Carlos was pretty confident that he would be able to avoid solving the box because he had seen what the old man was doing. However, Vito added a new clause to this challenge. He said that he would only partake in this challenge if they both wear blindfolds. Carlos accepted the clause, and the challenge began. With each turn, Carlos felt like he was going to lose because he had no idea what he was doing, when suddenly he started getting visions. The visions told him the movements of the box, both in his hands and Vito's. Carlos felt like this was God guiding him to his rightful fate's door, fulfilling his destiny. However, Carlos suddenly realized that the hooks that he wanted to come out had not yet shown up. Instead, the room was full of this weird, malevolent energy, the same one he felt surrounding the old man when he opened the box. Vito did solve the box, making Carlos the winner of the turf, but to rain on the parade, Grillard, Leo Cenobite, female Cenobite, and another fourth Cenobite showed up. They trapped Vito's boys from escaping while Carlos ran free. Right when he was about to leave the place, Carlos's men told him that they left the box behind. Carlos, who was completely way over his head from this victory, decided that he no longer needed the box. The box was evil, and in the Lord's name, he kicked it. On kicking the box reopened one more time, and the Cenobite came to Carlos. Carlos was not happy about it. He had won the duel. He was now the head of all the gangs in Philadelphia, but alas, things were not as easy as they seemed. Turns out, the old man he saw getting killed was a guardian of the box, and he was punished because he let the box fall into disrepair. However, when Carlos uses the box for his malicious intent, the box is repaired and reborn. Since it was Carlos's intent to fix the box and bring the Cenobites into this world, he would be the one to go with them. Soon, hooks and chains tied Carlos up. Grillard and the Cenobites dragged the ambitious Carlos to hell because they had so much to teach the young man. Marvelous verdict. So there we have it. I think Grillard, as one of the ancient Cenobites, has a lot of nuance in his character. Other than his horrific visage, he also serves as an exposition about this terrifying universe where pain and pleasure are the same. In both of his appearances, Grillard mostly dealt with people who tried to use Le Marchand's box to gain power and use that power for their own selfish desires. Do you think he did the right thing? Let us know in the comments, and I'll see you guys the next time. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.